This is Mike with On Point Preparedness. I wanted to share a really quick DIY project I did, only took a couple hours, and that is how to waterproof tape your seams. Many of you will recall I did a video on my surplus Polish lavu or teepee tent. It's basically two Polish ponchos that are buttoned together to make a teepee, and I put a waterproofing fabric on that canvas to make it very, very water resistant. But now I want to make it completely bomb proof, and that would require taping the seams. You'll know a lot of marketing today on rain jackets and such talk about taped seams because that's usually where the water enters in on. So I did some searching on the internet, especially on Amazon, and I found this product, Seam Sealing Tape, WBM FX 800 Hot Melt Waterproofing Repair Tape. It's about 20 meters, and that was able to cover every single seam on the poncho tent. But 20 meters, that's a good amount of tape. $15 isn't too much for what the product does. And so I just want to show you my experiences with this tape, as well as show you what the final product is. So my initial experience with the tape for about the first 10 minutes of trying it out wasn't too good. You just have to lay this tape onto the seam or the fabric that you're repairing, and then the instructions say that you get a hot iron, you put it on half strength, and then you put some wax paper or parchment paper on top of the tape, and then you leave your iron on it for about 5 to 10 seconds. I did not have very good results following those instructions, and so I found that I had to increase the iron hotness or strength to about 3/4 or maybe even a little bit more. And sometimes, I had to go to the upper range of that duration, putting it on there for like 8 to 10 seconds. But once I was able to really figure out how this tape was best suited to adhering to this type of canvas, perhaps the instructions work better on a different type of fabric, I made quick work of the entire tent. So here you can see me, I'm just putting the tape onto the canvas here, and then you're going to put your parchment paper over top of it. And then you go ahead and get your iron. Again, I had mine about 3/4 the way up on hotness. And then you just lay it on there for about 5 to 10 seconds. I had about 8 to 10 seconds. If your iron has a steam button, that definitely helps for the seam to adhere to the fabric. But I've also found through my trial and error that you do have to use a considerable amount of pressure to make sure the entire tape adheres to the full seam, because the seam is going to be off width. And I found that if you don't put pressure on it, there's going to be a little gap of air where the seam is, where that little difference in height is between the two pieces of fabric. So you really do have to use a lot of pressure here. And I've also found that it's better to do this on carpet rather than a hard surface. Just with the carpet giving a little bit, it helps the seam to mold up against the iron and get better contact throughout. So that's basically my trial and error learnings that I've had from here. But you can see here, and I have some better pictures later on down the line, that the entire seam is covered. It will be fully waterproof, and there is definitely no water getting through that at all. And each little foot and a half section, again, only takes about 15-20 seconds. So you can go through and tape your seams very quickly with this product. Now, when you have your parchment paper laid over top of the seam and you're ironing down, this is essentially what you're looking for. You're looking for the tape to sort of not really bleed through the parchment paper, but you really want it to show through and have this darkness there. That really shows that it's adhered to the fabric. The other thing about this parchment paper is as soon as you push down the iron on top of it, you want to pull that parchment paper up immediately. If you let it sit there for too long, the tape will actually adhere to the parchment paper and it'll pull off when you pull that paper off. But here you can see my finished product. You can see right along the seam where there's that difference in width, there's still a little bit of bubbling there. I just had to use the crease of the iron to get in that small space and make sure that had adhered. But you're really looking for the tape to be completely dark against the fabric. You're not wanting a lot of those white bubbles or anything, because then over time it'll probably pull up from the fabric. But as you can see here, this is about me midway through the project. I still had to do those horizontal seams, but literally every single seam with that 20 meters was taped down. And so I am fully confident that this TP tent will keep me 100% dry. Oh, and before I forget, you want to make sure that these tape seams are on the inside of your fabric. You don't want these on the outside towards the elements. But I'll put a link in the YouTube description box if you guys want to try it out. But I am very happy with this product. Again, with some trial and error. I'd recommend, just like the instructions recommend, that you test it on some fabric that you don't really care about, just so you know the correct hotness to use, as well as the duration that you put the iron onto the tape. Again, do not use your iron directly onto the tape or you're going to create a huge mess. But again, this is really, really helpful for taping seams, or if you have a hole or something and you want to just repair your fabric. I found this to be very useful as well. So I hope you all enjoyed this. This is Mike with On Point Preparedness. See you guys.